You're listening to Manx Radio, and I'm Judith Lay, welcoming you to the podcast of the Manx Sky at Night with Howard Parkin.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And we have so much to talk about that I have got to interrupt the music as quickly as possible to say Faster Mai, good evening and welcome, Howard Parkin.
Faster Mai, Judith, it's great to be here again.
Well, yeah, because we had our little tour of the observatory last month, it feels like ages since we've been in the studio.
But we're here now, we've lots to talk about, as you said.
We have, and I have been out walking over the last 3 nights and just seen some magnificent skies.
Yeah, we've been really lucky the last few nights. This settled spell of weather has meant we've had some really nice clear nights. Although I must tell you, last Tuesday I took my night school class to the observatory and it was a filthy night. Thick cloud, blowing a gale and everything else. And there was something special in the sky to look at, which I'll talk about in a minute. What happened on Wednesday? Crystal clear. Couldn't believe it. They were so disappointed it was cloudy, but Wednesday made up for it, because Wednesday was spectacular. Because, of course, a lot of people have been asking me, watch those 2 bright stars in the western sky. And those 2 bright stars are, of course, the planets Venus and the planet Jupiter. And on Wednesday in particular, the moon was right between them. Lovely crescent moon between the two of them. It was absolutely gorgeous. And someone actually took a picture of it from the end of my road, and my house is directly beneath them, all 3 of them. It's an absolutely wonderful picture. But what is fascinating about the sky at the moment is these 2 planets, which we don't often get the 2 brightest planets in the solar system from the perspective of seeing them from the Earth in the sky close together. But what's happening, Venus is rising in the sky, Jupiter is setting, and they're slowly drawing closer and closer together. And in fact, this Wednesday, Thursday, Jupiter will slide past Venus and will become the lower of the 2. And then that will happen right through then until probably the end of this month, end of March. And you're going to get another conjunction with the moon on the 23rd of March. But well worth looking out for. Over the next few nights, just watch these 2 bright stellar objects gliding past one another. And you know, the fascinating thing is when you look at Venus through a telescope, its diameter is only about what we call 3 arc seconds. But Jupiter's 30. But Jupiter is so much further away, it's not as bright. But Venus is like a beacon in the sky at the moment, very, very bright. For those that understand when we talk about magnitudes, Venus is -4 magnitude, Jupiter's -2.7. By far the brightest 2 objects in our night sky, other than the moon, of course. And but they're just spectacular. And the amount of people who've contacted me and met me and said, what were those 2 bright stars? Well, and even my grandson said to me, what are those 2 stars, Grandad? And I said, they're planets. He says, yes, they're Jupiter and Venus. I said, go on, which order? And he got the order wrong. But bless you, Rio, at least you knew what they were. So, and he's 8. 9, 9, I'm going to get killed if I said that.
You're bringing him up in the right way,
Absolutely
Howard.
right. That's the main thing.
Yeah. But I think somebody like myself, speaking for myself, you have to keep checking yourself to remember that you're not actually looking at everything on the same plane when
That's
you're looking
correct.
at the sky. Although it looks like that.
It does.
Because you can pick out the plough and all the different shapes.
constellations,
Yes. But you have to remember, just as you've said, that they're in different,
All
they're
totally
different distances.
away. And that's the problem the ancient astronomers had, because the ancient astronomers, the stories about the idea of a glass globe over the Earth and hanging lights down through the holes in it, or fires burning behind the dots in this big massive globe. And that was the concept for many, many centuries before they finally realised that the stars were infinitely further away. And of course the constellations are rubbish, really, because you might have the stars of the Plough, for instance. Most of the stars of the Plough, 5 of the 7, are roughly the same distance away, but 2 of them are dramatically much further away. And in a couple of thousand years' time, as a consequence of what we call their real motion, the motion, they do actually slowly change position over a period of centuries. The Plough will not look anything like it in about 5,000 years' time. These 2 stars will have gone off in different directions. And it's the same with most constellations.
But possibly in 5,000 years' time, we probably won't still be doing this programme.
We won't be too worried about that.
I don't think so. But we've got plenty to think about.
Oh, we certainly have.
At the moment. And of course, we've got to make the most of these weeks, haven't we? Because, of course, the clocks will be changing at the end of March.
The observing season, the best observing season, other than for the casual observer, is basically when the clocks go back to the clocks going forward again. And that's basically October through till March. We can still do some stargazing in April, and we'll be talking about that next month. But it's not as good, and the light nights do quickly get very, very lighter, much lighter. And I know people love that, but us astronomers, we like the dark nights, especially when we get a spell of decent weather. I mean,
Yeah.
I did the thing on Wednesday night, it was clear. Thursday clouded over a bit, but Friday night I was giving a talk at the Tynwald Hill restaurant. And the first thing I did to them all said, right, don't take your coats off. Everyone outside. We all went outside, and I pointed out the two planets I've just said about. And then I said, now, if you look directly overhead as well, we've got Mars. So we've actually got 3 planets in the sky at the moment. So it's quite a blessing. And that will carry on for quite some time because Venus is going to keep rising. Jupiter will disappear by the end of March, but Venus is going to keep rising and rising in the sky until it reaches its maximum distance from the Sun. Then it will start to come back inside the orbit of the Sun and the Earth and will disappear. I think it's in August it will disappear. So we've got it right through now, right through the spring, and indeed it's going to be quite spectacular. And you've only got to glance to the west just after sunset, and you'll see this bright object, which is, of course, Venus.
And it is amazing how long it is around.
It stays around for a long time, and it's
around
very,
for-
very bright.
Yeah. So, what else should we be talking about?
So you've got Jupiter and Venus in the constellation of Pisces, which is the remnants of our autumn constellations. You've got Pisces and Pegasus and Andromeda. But in the middle of the sky, in the south, and particularly about 7 o'clock at night, you've got the winter constellations. And Orion, of course, needs no introduction. Everyone knows Orion with the 3 stars in a line. And in the winter months, Orion sort of rises in the east and then stands up proud above the southern horizon throughout the winter months. Then he slowly but surely starts to fall over. He starts to fall over towards the western horizon. And when you see Orion falling over, you know spring is on the way. And not far behind him, you've got the constellations of Cancer, Leo and Virgo, the spring constellations. Not as bright as the winter constellations, as I was talking about some months ago, but nonetheless, Leo, the principal star in Leo is the star Regulus, the very bright star Regulus, which is called the royal star. And that star stands out very, very well as well indeed. And Virgo below it. So you've only got 2 very bright stars in this sort of sky. But it's nice to see. And as I say, when you see Orion falling over, you know that it's time for him to go to bed for the summer and come back up again next autumn. And he does. And last Friday, as I said with my people I had at the Tynwald, we could see the stars of Orion starting to fall over. Mars, incidentally, is almost directly above Orion in the constellation of Taurus the Bull. There's a bright star in Orion in Taurus called Aldebaran, and it's a red star, and Mars is the red planet, and the brightness of the two is roughly the same, and they're quite distinctive. But Mars is the higher one of the two. So look for a reddish-coloured star above Orion, and that's the planet Mars. But that's now fading away. It's fading in brightness as it's pulling away from the Earth. It had its close conjunction with us last December. It's now pulling away, and it will disappear. Not yet, some months before it'll disappear, but then it won't be visible for about 6 to 8 months before it will come back round again in its conjunction, which won't now be until beginning of January 25. It takes 2 years, so from December 22 to January 25 is just over 2 years. So make the best of Mars, but don't miss out on these 2 fantastic objects of Jupiter and Venus in the evening sky, setting over Peel. They set roughly about 8:30. They set about 8:30, the 2 of them. But Venus is going to get much, much higher, and by the end of the month, and indeed into April, it'll be setting about 11 o'clock, so visible pretty well most of the night, or till midnight anyway. So look out for them, and you can't mistake it. It's that very, very bright star, which isn't, of course, a star. It's our nearest celestial neighbour, which is after the moon, which is Venus.
And again, I know we've talked about this, but I think it is worth a mention. Some very, very skilled photographers are capturing some of these beautiful skies, making absolutely the most of the good equipment that they have, really knowing how to do it. And it's just lovely because if you haven't happened to have seen it, to be able to see a picture, you can get a real feel for it. So thank you to all the photographers who do that and post them up on social media.
And 30, 40 years ago, the only way to get decent astronomical photographs was from big observatories, but they were the only way to get decent pictures. But now the advances in amateur photography are such that anybody can take decent pictures. Even with my iPhone, I took a picture of Venus and Jupiter, and it's come out, and it's not a bad picture. It's not brilliant, but it's always that thrill of doing it yourself.
Yes.
So Judith, when you're at the Claddocks walking up and down, get your phone out next Wednesday, Thursday, and get a picture, and you can show it me next month. How's that for a challenge? You've got an iPhone.
It sounds to me as though I'm being given homework here,
Point
doesn't
and shoot.
it?
Point and shoot. That's all you've got to do.
Dear listener, don't you think it sounds like I'm being given homework to do?
Definitely.
I think I am.
You'll get lines if you don't do it.
Well, I'll have a go. I have to say, I love taking pictures. I'll take pictures of anything that just catches my eye. But I have to say that when it comes to the sky, and I'm not meaning to be corny or whatever, I just love looking at it. I just want to look at it. I don't want to look at it through a lens. I just want to stand there.
I'm glad you said that, because I agree with entirely. Many's the time I've told people when we're looking for an astronomical spectacular like a meteor shower, eclipse or whatever, and I made the mistake when I saw an eclipse in 2006. We were so busy taking pictures, we missed it. So when I saw another one in 2017, I thought, no pictures. You can get them off the internet. You can get other people's pictures. Just enjoy it. And it's the same with the stars. You don't have to know the names of the stars, the planets, the constellations or whatever. Just enjoy it, because they are majestic. And actually, if you are going to take a picture, despite what I've just said, what makes an astro photograph even better, if you've got some dark trees in the foreground and you see the stars behind it, that makes such a difference than just a black scene with dots on.
Yeah, a tree or the moon behind
the moon
a
behind
tree.
a building or something else like that. Just anything to give it perspective.
Yes.
And I know Ron Strafty, who I've mentioned before, he takes magnificent astrophotographers. There are other astrophotographers out there as well, but Ron's does some great pictures. I know he does lots of talks to different people, and his dark sky pictures are quite spectacular.
You're mentioning, but it seems to me you're mentioning quite a lot of groups that you're going to and talking to. Are you sensing that there is more of there's a growing interest?
Definitely. I've noticed in 2009, I'm going back for 13, 14 years now, and they had the International Year of Astronomy. And that seemed to give astronomy a real kick. And I think not only that, I think the other thing that's brought astronomy to the masses, if you like, is the Hubble Space Telescope images. People are now seeing these spectacular pictures from the Hubble. And, of course, now the James Webb Telescope is sending these wonderful pictures to us. And astronomy, and I think awareness, global consciousness, climate change, all these things are all to do with the natural environment and our concern for the natural environment, and astronomy and the skies and the dark skies, which is another subject, are something that I think people have become very interested in. And I know we're going to talk after the break probably about Wales. We've got this dark sky in Wales.
Yeah.
And I think there's just so much interest, and I'm just delighted to be doing it. I mean, I'm doing these talks around the island now. I keep getting invited to do these talks at, I've done some at the Sound, I've done some at Tynwald, and at Babbage's and other places. And people still want to hear them and they go to them, so I'm quite happy to do them. So it's great.
It just seems that you're mentioning more groups and places that you've been. And I think it's very encouraging if it is a sign.
I think this, and our society is finding an upsurge in interest as well. And I think when in COVID, because I wasn't going on the ships lecturing anymore because COVID stopped all that, I started doing talks on the island. And they've just grown, and it's great. Because as you know, Judith, I'll talk about astronomy to anybody, anytime.
Yeah, but also you have an infectious enthusiasm, which is a very good thing. So, right, now, because we mustn't run out of time to talk about what's happening in space, is there anything else that we need to be talking about?
Well, we need to talk about the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights.
Go on, then.
The Northern Lights peaks every... Well, you can see the Northern Lights pretty well every winter and spring, and indeed early autumn. But it peaks every 11 years, and the next peak is July 2025, and there was a serious prediction that the peak was going to be lower than the one in 2014. The reverse is the case. They're now showing that the amount of aurora, the amount of activity on the sun which causes the aurora, is rising quite substantially, and they're now predicting that the solar maximum in July 25 will be bigger than the last two. And they were, well, 14 wasn't particularly good, but 2003 was very good. And they're now predicting that solar activity will be even better. So we're rising up towards that peak now. And that means the chances of seeing aurora are better. And the best time to see aurora, statistically, the best time to see aurora, if you're not in the Arctic Circle, which we're not, is the northern horizon, but secondly, round the time of the March equinox. And the March equinox, of course, takes place on the 21st of March. Equinox equal day equal night, and that's the best time of the year to see the aurora. So if you've got a northern horizon view, look towards the north any time now for the next 6-7 weeks and see if you see a glow in the sky, a white glow to start with. If you've got a camera, it'll be green, and it may well develop into a significant aurora. There was an aurora alert last week. It didn't transgress into anything. I don't know why, but it just doesn't, because sometimes it's very, very enigmatic, the aurora. You think it's going to be there and it's not. But when it is there, it's quite spectacular. And we've had some wonderful pictures of the aurora taken from the Isle of Man. But you really need to have a northern horizon. So anybody between Andreas and Nyarble, basically, Or, I mean, for me, living in Onchan, I go up to the veranda. The veranda is a great spot to look over the Northern Plain and see if we can see any aurora. But good luck with that. But it's certainly well worth looking out for. And if you do see it, let us know. And I know many years ago, Bernie Quayle was on the radio, many, many years ago, 2000, it was 2000, I think it was. We had an auroral storm, which is when you get a really spectacular aurora. And Bernie was on the radio talking about it, and I was listening to it. We were in Nyarble, actually, at an astronomy meeting, believe it or not. And he came on the radio, does anyone know what those lights are in the sky? So I got in touch with Bernie, and we had a lovely conversation about it. And, even now people say to me, I remember seeing the Northern Lights way back at the beginning of this century, and that was what they saw.
Yeah.
That was in March, April. I think it was April the 2nd, the year 2000.
Well, I think that given what we've been talking about for the last quarter of an hour or so, there really is only one piece of music we can play for our break now, and it is from Shocking Blue. Believe it or not, this goes back to 1969.
Oh dear, show me age.
And it is, quite simply, called Venus. We'll be out in space after this.
She's got it. Yeah, baby, she's got it.
It's Shocking Blue and Venus, because in the first part of this month's edition of the Manx Sky at Night, we have been talking a lot about Venus in our night sky. And so welcome back to Howard Parkin for the second bit of the programme, where we generally look, and we are indeed going to look at matters to do with space. But first of all, let's talk about the news story that broke, I think it was just about 48 hours ago. And this is that Innis Unckley, which also known as Bardsey Island, has been declared an international dark sky sanctuary. And it's one of only 16 in the world, which is amazing.
It is an amazing achievement for them, and congratulations to them. And it has a personal connection, because when I was little, I lived in Liverpool, and my parents took me to a place called Aberdaron, which is on the tip of the Llyn Peninsula, facing Bardsey Island, which has now got the Welsh name, of course. And it's great news for them, and it's a fantastic achievement. And these new dark sky sanctuaries, as you know, I'm the International Dark Skies advocate for the island, and they brought in the sanctuaries only a few years ago. They have a whole range of parks or communities or whatever, and the sanctuaries were given to very special places. And I can imagine Bardsey was absolutely fantastic. It's in the Irish Sea, it's got no lights near it. The habitation is behind the mountain, which means they're looking out to the sea. But you know what frustrates me, Judith?
I can't imagine, Howard.
That could have been the Calf of Man. I've been trying to get the island to get international dark sky status, whatever we can go for. And one of the suggestions made some years ago that we had the Calf of Man, and it fell on deaf ears, I'm afraid. And we're still left with, we've got our 26 dark sky sites, which are fantastic, and I talk about them. You talking me before the break, we were talking about me giving talks. The main talk I'm giving at the moment is all about dark skies and the need to do something about this excessive lighting. And that's my remit from the IDA. And whilst I'm delighted for Bardsey, I just frustrated a little that we could have had something local, which would have been a great achievement for us.
Yes, I can understand your frustration, but there was a little bit in the news report that really made me think of you, because they talked to various people. One lady, I can't remember what her role is in the. She's obviously from the area.
Is she the warden, I think?
And
Yeah.
well, this lady was not the warden, and she said, which I thought was a very good point. She said, this is not about getting tens of thousands of people to go to Bardsey Island. She said that's not what it's about at all. It's not to increase the popularity. It is to understand what is unique about this. And then the warden was interviewed, and she was a Welsh-speaking lady, and they were translating what she, there was subtitles to translate what she was saying. And she was saying that she had to take out, she had a handheld digital device, and she said she has to go out regularly and take readings at different times of the day and
SQM
night.
meter.
And sorry, what is it?
SQM. It sounds complicated. Sky quality meter, that's what they're called.
Oh.
SQMs.
Right. Well, she just showed it to us on the television screen, and then she said, it's really great being able to put on your Wellingtons and go outside in your pyjamas to work.
I don't do that, Jude. I don't tend to go out stargazing in pyjamas, not too often.
You would if you saw something really good. I know you would,
Oh,
Howard.
I'd be up all night waiting for it.
And you wouldn't have put your pyjamas on. Right, moving swiftly on.
I think so.
Nightwear is not on our agenda to
normally,
discuss.
no.
Right, so space. Steve Bowen.
Yeah, this is a great story because tomorrow, officially, or scheduled tomorrow, it was meant to be today, but it's been put back 24 hours. Steve Bowen is launching as the new commander of the ISS Crew 66, I think it is. He's going to be 66/67, and he's launching on a Dragon spacecraft tomorrow. And the reason we're talking about Steve Bowen is he came to the island in 2012. He was one of Nicole Stott's crew, STS-133, the last flight of Discovery, and Steve Bowen came here with his crewmates and had a wonderful time on the island. So I thought it would be nice just to remind him of who we were and say, good luck, Steve, with your mission. And, he took the time out to reply to me, and he sent a lovely message back. He had a wonderful time on the Isle of Man. He looks forward to seeing it from space, and he hopes to get back here sometime soon. He was a lovely bloke. But, things happen in life that you don't expect. Steve was not meant to go on the original shuttle mission with Nicole. He was meant to fly who knows when. He wasn't scheduled to have a mission. But unfortunately, a chap called Tim Copra fell off his bicycle when their mission was delayed and broke his collarbone. So Steve Bowen was then given the flight on STS-133 with Nicole, which is why he came here. And Tim Copra eventually got back into space with our British astronaut, Tim Peake. So there was two Tims on when Tim Peake was up. So it's amazing how things happen. So you never know. Serendipity, I think they call it. But Steve was such a lovely bloke. And I'm now part of his Facebook support team. And so I'll be communicating with him. So I'm hoping you might get a picture of the Isle of Man from space. And if he does, I'll certainly share it with you.
Which would be very exciting.
We're working on it.
There
We're
is
working
something. Well, yeah, go to it, Howard. Go to it. So what else? Possible Starship launch in March?
This is a story that's been going for about the last 6 months. The Starship, Elon Musk's Starship, launching from Boca Chica in Texas. They've been threatening to launch this for some time, but the French aviation, not French, what am I talking about? The American aviation authorities have kept giving him all sorts of problems. So I don't know why, but anyway, he still hasn't got his license to fly. But they've tested the rocket, they've clamped it down on the stand, and they've fired 31 of the 33 engines, and they reckon they're almost ready to go. And one of the earliest predictions was it would go at the beginning of March 2023. So watch this space between now and our next programme. It may well be launched, and if it is, it's going to be quite momentous, because this is the first sort of private spaceflight rocket and everything else. I mean, no SpaceX launched on their own rockets, the Falcon 9s, but this rocket is capable of getting to the moon and indeed to Mars, which is Elon Musk's ultimate goal. And he said he would launch in 2023, 24, and it looks like he's going to do it. It will launch just to one orbit, then it's going to splash down off the coast of Hawaii, and that'll be the first one. And they're already talking about this Japanese artist who's going to take 8 people with him to the moon and back. And that is at the moment scheduled for late 23, but frankly it's going to be late 24 at the earliest. But things are moving, not quite as fast as we like, but there's a lot going on in space, and a lot of orbital space flights and tourist space flights. We've got the new Polaris mission going at the end of April. Lots to talk about, and just worth keeping your eyes and ears open for. But when it goes, it'll be all over the media, I can assure you.
Well, indeed, yes. And that's another thing. There are a lot more space stories. It seems to get into the press much more frequently than once it did.
I can give you a personal example of that, because I do my night school class. I do 12-week night school class starting from October onwards, and I'm doing week 12 this Tuesday. And there's been a bit of a gap because I was away. And so week 11 was last week at the observatory, week 12 is this week. And every week I give them an update of what's going on, a bit like I give with you, but it's on a weekly basis. And I am struggling to filter out what to include and what not to include, because there's so much going on. And again, when I do my lectures on the ships, I've got to make sure my lectures are up to date. And it was a bit of a laugh years ago, because when I first started doing the lectures and I gave them on the ship, and they said, oh, that's great, we can use them again and again and again. I said, no, you can't. They've got to be updated. Well, why not? The history lectures don't do that. I said, yes, well, we know everything there is to know about the Bayer Tapestry. That ain't going to change. But astronomy changes literally on a monthly or weekly basis. And that's what we're doing now. The Starship thing will be a big story. But only a few months ago, we were talking about the SLS rocket, the Artemis mission. And they're now already talking about naming the crew for that, which might include Victor Glover, who's another chap we've met some time ago. And it's just keeping pace with it all is incredible. I'm looking forward to the summer when I can have some time off.
You're never going to have time off.
No, I never do.
Now you've got to make a decision, because we've only got about 40 seconds left. So you've got to make a decision. What's the most important thing that you need to tell me?
Well, probably, Judith, what I need to say is that the Animal Astronomical Society were very sad in January when James Martin died. James Martin was one of our founder members of the Society, and he really was a marvel for us. It was him, I won't say single-handedly arranged the observatory, but he was hugely involved in it, and sadly he passed away in January. So this Thursday night, open invitation to any members of the Society, past and present, to come along to the observatory on Thursday night. I'll be giving a tribute to James at that meeting, and he's sadly missed, and he's left his wife Shirley, who's a lovely lady, and we're hoping she's going to come along, and we want to give a worthy tribute to James for all his contribution he made for us. And it's a sad note to finish with, but his legacy lives on in the fact that the observatory is such a wonderful building, as you saw and we talked about last month, and that's a tribute we're giving to James this Thursday.
Well, as you say, it's very sad, and we offer our condolences to his family, but he has left a wonderful legacy that is in superb condition. And I can say that now, having seen it.
Indeed.
And something that will live on, and so many people will enjoy and benefit from. And you couldn't say more than that.
Exactly.
Howard, I am delighted to say, will be joining us again on the final Sunday of the month of March. Howard Parkin, Faster My.
Faster, my Judith.